very well. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, so much. And so, and I don't know whether you want me to, how do you want me to refer to you? I know you said
Mike.
drop the Mr.
Mike.
Just Mike. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Kedra Flowers, guys. I'm here with Mike Sullivan. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself because I don't know that I would totally do it justice. But also, I want to introduce myself. More of you probably will know him than actually know me, but I'm a CPA in the state of Texas. I've been practicing for over 24 years. I've helped tons of people relieve themselves from issues with the IRS, whether it's delinquent taxes, collections, all of that kind of stuff, audit representation, anything to help free them from the IRS. And what we also do is we educate them so that they don't return to that same problem. So today we're talking to someone who's been doing that way longer than I have, and I'm not going to point out an age difference there. He's gorgeous though, so that you can't tell his age by his looks. This is Mike. This is Mike Sullivan, and he's going to tell you his list of resumes and where he's been because he's phenomenal. Mike.
Yeah, I just want to really give you a short list. Out of college, when I was 20 years old, I wanted to go into law school, but IRS offered me a really neat position, and they hired me to be an auditor in Miami, and they showed me the booth I would be in and said I'd have lunch for a half hour and two 15-minute breaks, and they were going to give me a bunch of money back then, like probably equivalent out of high school today. Maybe $45,000. That was a lot of money back then, and I said I couldn't do that because that wasn't me. I'm not a person who can sit in an office. And by the time I got home, they had another job lined up for me to be a revenue officer. So I started with IRS back in 1973. And I worked there to 1982. I worked in narcotic trafficking program with IRS for a couple of years during the Cocaine Cowboys when they were down there. We got to seize everything. That was really, really exciting to be on the boats they used for this and to go in the DEA drug labs. And God, that was really, we could seize anything we wanted to at the time. Home, boats. I actually lost a body on a funeral seizure one time. I don't want to go into that, but we did. Killed a horse once time when we locked it up the wrong way. So I have a whole bunch of stories I don't want to get into, but while I was a teaching instructor up in Atlanta, I taught the Offer and Compromise program, taught IRS agents their jobs. You know, if you're seasoned, you're going to do that. So I can't even tell you how many cases I've worked, thousands and thousands. And something happened to my wife. My wife passed away in '82. I decided to go on private practice and do this on my own. So since 1982, 83, I've been in private practice to this day, and I still look good. No, I'm just.
That's right, you do.
I've been doing this a long time. So the industry's changed a lot. Before, only attorneys and CPAs would really represent, then the enrolled agent came along. And I've just seen the industry take a really bad turn really over the last 5 years. These people are writing books, nothing against them. And people are reading these books, they're taking their courses, they're telling them how to market. And next thing you know, they put up a shingle, they're a tax resolution specialist. So I wasn't a big techie and looking at these Facebook groups. And about 6 months ago, someone asked me to join this group. And I looked at the group and I says, my God, are these people in training or are they learning? And someone says, oh no, these are people that have been practicing a long time. I says, no way. I says, they shouldn't be asking the questions they ask because, you know, what they're teaching them in books isn't the same behind the scenes and what's between the lines. Right. They have no reality of really what's going on with IRS. So I started this group, and then Herb Cantor, I've been wanting Herb for a long time. He's a former IRS appellate agent, worked at IRS for 40 years. He's a revenue agent, appeals large dollar. What's a large dollar case? last case he worked on, they had $20 billion in sale. He comes to me and I expose him to a couple of these groups, and he said the same thing. He said, are these people really getting paid to do this? And he's seen that in appeals. We've seen that in IRS, that people do not know what they're doing. They're very good people, but you can't read a book. And I tell people all the time, if I've read 5 books on flying a plane and I got an A+, would you get on that plane with me for the first time if I've never, so someone's really never helped me and walked through that? Well, yeah, you wouldn't. Or would you do that for a doctor? Well, what you're doing, you're giving that person your financial life and saying,
that's right,
work out a deal, get a levy released. And these people don't know if IRS is being honest, telling them the truth, or bullying them.
right.
These people get bullied all the time. And I get the calls on there, say, this person represented me, this happened, this happened. I said, well, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. So the group I have started, I'm not going to mention it, but I do have a Facebook.
No, please do. Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of it is, really, to be honest. I don't even have a clue. I'm lucky I remember. I only remember my name because I have a phone and a home screen. But anyway, I just try to correct the wrongs that are out there so people can practice and be efficient working with their taxpayers so they can get the right result, because it's what's not in the books that's important. When a practitioner submits a case, they have no idea what IRS is really looking at that case. When I see a case for IRS, I'm saying, where's the stink? Where are they lying to me? What isn't making sense here? So they don't know that that taxpayer sometimes lying to them. So the first thing the agent's thinking is, where am I being buffaloed? And you kind of get a feel for the case after you've worked several thousands. You kind of know what's going on. And I tell people, when I get a case right away, it takes time to mature the case and develop the case and take it where I want to go. Collection cases are like planning for collections. I very rarely, unless IRS has knocked on that door that day, I develop my cases to get success. I used to accept and deny offers and compromise. So I understand who's pulling the wool over my eyes, who isn't. And you know, when you submit an offer and compromise, IRS has an accurate report in front of them. They can go ahead and they'll get your credit report. So by the time you have contacted that taxpayer, you've already developed what you think in your mind is the way you're going to go. And the question is, are they lying to you or telling the truth? And is the documentation supporting what's going on, or isn't it? So there's a lot of things, Kendra, that goes into these cases that people have no idea about how IRS works. And the firm that I have, we're all former IRS agents. I have a tax attorney, CPA, so we're really deep into IRS, and we're just trying to help people. And I'm glad there are people like you out there who know the difference from right or wrong, and you can guide the people into doing the right things, because what the average practitioner thinks, sometimes the agent isn't even thinking that way. So that's what I'm here to try to correct, and I believe you are too. So I give you a lot of credit for trying to teach everybody the truth and not being buffaloed by these books and these salespeople out there trying to sell them to put up a shingle and collect $5,000 on a case, and they don't know what the hell they're doing with it.
Absolutely. And that was I thank you so much for going into that, because that was one of the things I wanted to get your opinion on, kind of the environment today. One of the big things that I see, and it's the same thing you're saying, people, and it's not necessarily intentional, but I do call it somewhat predatory, because I can get a big lump sum of money if I represent this case and I have no clue where to start. And so there are people that are relying on these professionals to submit offers and settlements, and they're submitting them, and then they come back and, oh, it was denied. It was denied. The majority of clients that I help have already paid one or two other firms before coming to me. And either it was denied or they said they didn't qualify or whatever. And then we look at it now and we tell them up front, because the information's there. This is not an independent person's decision. There's an internal revenue manual. There are policies, procedures, past case history. There's all kinds of information that you can access to know ahead of time what the outcome is going to be with this thing.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
think,
people don't know on offers and compromise, the agent is actually many times going to look 3 years back. People don't know that. You said, well,
right.
what are they going to look back for? Well, there's a lot of people who set their cases up for offers and compromise. All of a sudden, convenient, the last year or 18 months, they've gone from making 130 to 30,000, and they're dentists, they're professionals. Well, IRS is going to look at the age. They're going to look at the age education level. They're going to look at the AGI from the last 3 or 5 years. They just don't look at that offer and say, bingo, this looks good. No, as an agent who's looking at a case, you're putting everything in. What's really important that people don't understand about offers is that the IRS is looking at future income potential. So if you come to me and you're giving me an offer for $2,000, I'm the revenue officer and I'm thinking, I got 5 more years left on this statute. Is it possible for me to collect $2,000 more based on the history than going forward? Is this a person who has an education just going through a slump? Well, I'm not going to accept that because I see I can collect $2,000 more over the next 5 years on a statute if I just ask for, $400 a year, or I can get that on a refund offset.
Right.
So it's not what people think on offers and compromise. Anyone who's, by the way, these are on higher grade. A grade 12 revenue officer is going to work a case over 100,000. It's got to be signed off many times by district counsel, the group manager. IRS isn't stupid, and if you're
Right.
slopping an offer together that's not documented, and you wind up disappointing the client, and you're getting a fee, and you're saying, "Oh, IRS didn't accept it." Well, how they never going to accept it in the first place? The bottom line is you just didn't know. You just didn't know better.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And that is what I try to give in the course is this is what you look for upfront to qualify the client. I've made more clients happy by telling them you don't qualify for a settlement and you should be happy. Now let's figure out what we can do to get you out of this situation. And then we work out, because there are all kind of alternative strategies that you can do, whether it's installment agreements, whether it's, other penalty abatement where there's penalty that can be abated. There's all kind of other things to look at. One of the, I guess, share with me, from your experience, one of the most difficult, or I guess cases that was accepted that you wouldn't have expected to be accepted, or.
Yeah, I just had a dentist who settled for, he owed 450, settled for $4,000. That's a
Okay.
case, though, that it took me 3 years to cultivate the case. The dentist had broke his wrist, and I had to show IRS. I actually sent them pictures of the X-ray to show them how he was. If people have gone through problems and hurricanes and floods, I send pictures with my offers and compromise.
Likewise.
The offer form is not necessarily give you everything you want. I actually put a cover page on my offer explaining the different problems. See, the offer doesn't say, it's just nothing but numbers.
Right.
The offer doesn't paint the picture of the taxpayer or the client. So in my cover letter, I go ahead and put the case together to show what happened, the medical history, the problem, what happened to the kids, was there underlying circumstance. I also show why it's going to be tough for them in the future to make more money. And if I can document it, I document. That all goes on the cover before the agent looks at the offer. You don't even see that in a book.
Right.
And so it's important when an agent looks at the case, they have presuppositions after their first review. So I want their first presupposition to be what I'm telling them about the case, and then the numbers follow. So now I've helped them make an opinion on the case, a supposition about the case that now seems believable. Nobody does that in the industry. If you do, you'd be surprised if you have a good offer, how easy it'll go through. So you document. And many times I have a 10-page little piece I put together in front of the offer.
Right. That's a great idea. Now I do that, and I call it the exceptional circumstance statement. I usually put it behind the paper, the initial paperwork, but that's a great idea to put it up front. That way it colors the perception from the beginning.
I staple it 8 times, so they have to remove the staples to get to the offer. I make sure those suckers are on there tight, put Gorilla Glue and everything on. I make them work to find the offer.
Yeah, I usually bind them. I bind them with the spiral binding, and then they have to come and unbind them, and But yeah. So that's a great story, and that's a great point. Some of the cases that I would say that I've worked that I wasn't expecting to get accepted, it had something typically to do with a medical condition or an age or a disaster. So those are 3 big ones. But sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes there are. I've even had situations, and I don't want to make it about my cases, but where there's a mental issue that's going on. It could be illiteracy or something at that level.
All my clients would qualify for the mental issue.
Yeah. There's usually something, and the client may not even know. The client.
Yeah, and more important, if your clients had a high back end, or let's say the clients had a really good 2013, 14, 15, you've got to explain to IRS why the future isn't bright. Remember, most people submitting the offer only think the agent's looking at this. They're looking at the back.
That's right.
How'd they get here? What's the income? What's their ability? And they look at the offer, and then they say, what's future collection potential? They're actually looking at 3 things and not 1 thing. They're not just looking at the offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's actually gold. The fact that they know that and know the fact to put these cover letters on, that's gold. That's worth whatever the cost of your program is, because I'm guaranteeing you people do not know those 2 things.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm going to charge you more for this brilliant advice I'm giving.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. You can Zelle me that, by the way, when we're finished.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think, the bottom line, I think a very key point that has to be put in there is when they actually take the evaluation of the offer. Take that if you need to do that.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. When it's time to actually have that conversation with the offer examiner or appeals or wherever that conversation is happening, it is also important to be able to communicate effectively with that person who's making the decision, because I think that is hugely key to them getting the story and understanding. And I think over years, especially when you're new, now over years, I tend to deal with some of the same people over and over. So they kind of have, a certain experience of my past work. They know when it comes bound like that, it's from me, and they kind of have an expectation. But when you're new, I think there is a certain amount of experience that they need to hear from your mouth, that you've looked at this and this is why this case is an exception, for you.
I'm going to give you another bonus. This I'm going to have to charge you more money for, actually.
I can't even afford you, Mike.
No, you can't. Matter of fact, I take credit cards. This isn't even a Zelle thing anymore. So when we're finished working a case, we fax a letter to the agent expressing our gratitude to work with them. They were very professional and we appreciated working with them. That's a great follow-up letter, because as a revenue officer, I think I was there 10 years and I got 1. So if you can do that, I guarantee you that revenue officer you'll be endeared to that person and they'll remember you forever. So that's the 3rd gold standard I gave you today, just so you know.
Okay.
I know no one's done that, but we do it on every case.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you're not gonna believe that we've never done ever a follow-up. So you're right, that is gold. We've not done that. But because it never fails, you're gonna get a follow-up request.
Am I
other
allowed to have,
additional
am I
information.
allowed to have a smoothie on your station?
Absolutely. You can have a smoothie.
I hate to tell you
You
this.
can have a smoothie on me. If I had known, I would have sent it through Uber Eats.
We actually went down to the beach, which is about 1,000 yards from our office, and there's a great smoothie place right on Fort Lauderdale Beach. So this smoothie, I just want you to know, comes from a little smoothie place right off the beach under palm trees. And you know, it's tough because I'm always getting beach sand in my shoes. So it's tough to live down here, but somebody has to do it. So
Absolutely. It just looks awful. I have an administrative team down there and they are suffering really bad in Florida.
Tough.
I mean,
somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it.
they're in Pensacola.
I want to tell you a little about a case that I had. You guys may find this interesting. So
Okay.
I went out to somebody who had owned a Subway. We'll just call it a Subway for argument's sake. So I go out there, and guy hadn't filed return. Now remember, I'm working back in the 70s, 80s, and we'd prepare returns back then for the people under 6020B, 6020A, whatever the circumstance was, like SRS, but we'd actually prepare them, have them sign them. So I went out to the guy. He says, how much money you make? And I really don't know. I said, what happened to your records? He said, you know, I had a flood out here. I said, oh, yeah, what flood was there? He says, well, oh, yeah, oh, it was a plumbing flood. Oh, it was a plumbing flood. You have record? Well, no, I don't think the landlord kept them. He says, I said, well, how much have you made? He says, I don't know. I said, oh, really? You don't know? Okay. Well, I said, do me a favor. So basically, he was challenging me to reconstruct his tax return for him. So I want you, whoever's listening to you, I want you to think about, if you're the IRS and you have power to do what you want, how could you reconstruct the income from, let's just call it a Subway? How would you do that? Just think about that for a minute. Do whatever you want to find out. So are you outside every day counting customers that come in, sitting out there for a week, a month? Well, it was very simple. I just issued a 2039 subpoena to the people who sell us bread, and another one who sell us cups. Those are the big two ticket items that, for instance, a Subway or a sandwich have. I took 20% off for waste, and others I figured out the average price of a sandwich, average price of a soda, and voila, I came up with the average gross sales, and I knew what the cost of the bread and cups were because they were provided by the vendor, and boom, just like that, we pretty much figured out real close. So IRS has market specialization tips that they have really in every industry.
Right.
That you should be aware of. For a laundromat, what do they do? You're thinking, what do they do? There's two things every laundromat has: water and utilities. So you can back into those. You don't have to count the quarters and machines. There's ways to do that.
Right.
But the market specialization program has all of these. One more thing I do want to talk about is, I'm asked this all the time, is why is my return audited? IRS has what's called, this is most audits. The biggest audit is the matching program. You're getting 1099s, W-2s. I think there's about 1.4, 1.6 million returns go through the matching project that are wrong. Another 350,000 returns are audited by a revenue agent or office audit. Those numbers were probably good about 18 months ago, and those are selected mainly through the DIF score. That's a discriminatory index function number. And what that is IRS puts in key numbers on your tax return: gross income, deduction line items, credit incomes. And what they do is they have a set of algorithms and a series of flags that if you don't fall within the national average of your income or gross income, That number's driven up, that number's driven up, that number, oh, you're out of the norm here, you're under the norm here. And if you get so many diff points, that tax return, a matter of fact, comes out for an audit. So the discriminatory index function is the key reason some 350 tax returns really are audited. You owe me for that one too, because that wasn't in my contract. So
Uh-oh,
the
so
more I
sorry.
go, you can't afford me.
Because a lot of times, because this is what I do and I've done for 24 years, tax preparers will ask me that question. They're like, well, you know, my taxpayer's upset because their returns audited, and I'm trying to help them understand it's not me. And I'm on a podcast, like trying to explain, well, yeah, it's not, but it is. Like it's not necessarily you, but I think as a preparer, having information to understand why returns are selected for audit gives you the information to add those additional statements and explanations as needed that will stop it, because that first point is to get selected. But then there are live human beings that are, what is it called when they go on, they're on not duty, it's like a military term, detail. When they go on detail and they actually go and look at the returns that have those diff numbers.
Yeah, they actually go to the service center. They send experienced revenue agents into the service center. I don't know how they're doing that right now. They're probably not. But they actually hand look at audits and pick them. So
yeah,
that gives another bonus tip for me.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you owe me so much money, Dal. I don't know what.
Okay.
So let's say I'm a tither at church. Okay.
Right.
This high number. I will actually attach the check and the statement. For instance, when I had hurricane loss, there's many hurricanes, I put them on there. So when the auditor actually looks at being detailed to the service center, they will find with my tax return, they will find any reason that I was up and over. So they'll look at that and say, this makes sense.
That's
and
right.
we'll kick the case out for audit. So
Exactly.
you can attach anything you want to that tax return, just so you know, and you'll save yourself an audit if you have things that are over and above. How much you owe me now? Let me just get
a ton. Thank you. I just absolutely love you. You are just like, I wish I could have had you before we started marketing this. So this is the first ever, by the way, virtual seminar. Prior, it's been live. But to be honest, more than anything, I've given this information for free to people in a mentor relationship year after year after year, like you, because it really, if I can help one person and they help 100, then I'm helping more people. And that's how I see that. But at this point, while we're all in this pivot, I thought, hey, this is an opportunity to come in here and get CPAs. I will say this. What I'm finding is CPAs are a little more hesitant to move into this arena because I think people have that predatory mindset. People, you're just overcharging for this thing, and IRS doesn't accept offers and whatever. No, IRS accepts offers. My acceptance rate, I don't know how, I need to look, I really need to go back and really compute this. I've submitted hundreds. I've had 2 ever that they did not accept. One was because the assets, but I can't say they didn't accept it, because what they did, we put them on an installment agreement that they owed $110,000. At the end of it, they would have paid $21,000. So it still was quote unquote an acceptance at the end of this. But that was a situation where we sent pictures. She had this huge land property that she inherited that seemed to be worth anything, and it didn't even have underground plumbing. So we had to send pictures and show, to get that. That was the one. The other one was not in the best interest of the government, and it was because the owners were doing some little tricky stuff in the background.
Let me just address that. When they're not in the best interest of the government, the IRS has a statement because of public policy. It's not in the best interest of the government. I've had to turn a couple down. If I have found tax fraud on a return, mortgage fraud, a financial crime, a drug dealer, the reason they do that is all offers in compromise go to 6 regional service centers throughout the United States and are open for public inspection for 18 months. So if they believe, the IRS believes that the public would have an uproar about the settlement of this case, it was a violent person, financial crime, IRS simply has to make a statement, this is not in the best interest or it goes against public policy. They'll close that audit out and they don't need an explanation. Now, with that said, if you wait 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years, when that's calmed down, about 50% of those offers will go through because time has passed. So it all depends on the relevancy and the timing of those type of cases, just so you know. But that's the reason IRS will deny them. So, and that's, once again, people don't understand. IRS is doing a full, if you do a LexisNexis accurate search and you find this stuff, it's easier for IRS to close the case than to work the case, because whether it's open or closed, the IRS don't get any more, the agent don't get any more credit. Rather close 5 cases and he doesn't have to accept them. It's less work for him. So it's okay if they do that.
Yeah. And that's what I've seen. And so it's, you know, this is a really positive. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I really appreciate your time, but I want to be respectful of it.
How much more money you got?
You know, I'm already tapping into the line of credit already. It's just gone up. It's so valuable. And I really got to figure out how we can get this down to a regular little talk chat.
The bottom line is documentation is king. At the end of the day, you've got to make your work better than somebody else's. So when I submit a offer, and let's say the income or the expense was line item 35, I'll put 35 on the top paper. I go ahead and let them know this exhibit goes with this number on the financial statement. I actually try to prepare it like a 12th grader was going to look at it. I'm not saying that's not the educational level. I want to make it so easy for the agent to read that they kind of understand it. So I think you just put your cover letters on, make sure it makes sense, and you know, you follow the formula, you pre-qualify the thing, give the person a fair price. And really the real important thing, Kendra, I want to make sure we understand is that client, that refund is going to be taken that year if the offer is approved. So I changed the W-4 of the client immediately, so they're not going to have a refund.
That's
and
right.
For the next 5 years, that client has to file on time and pay on time. If not, game over, the case comes back out to the field. So your work is actually to explain the follow-up to that client as well.
Right. Absolutely. Excellent. And that is so true.
So baby, if you need me anymore, here I am.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Bye, sweetie.
We'll sign off. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.